Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together. The Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is the Freezer Podcast.
What is up? This is the Freezer Podcast, where we bring you a local field Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. I'm Sanjay. Alongside me, like always, is Fred and Matt. And we are live here in our home studios, brought to you by Sweep Studios, brought to you by Game On Wisconsin. And it feels good to be back in the seat this week. It was tough. I lost by a stroke.
we didn't revisit that. So
Yeah, I did.
Man.
I took a triple bogey on a par 5. And that's where I mean, I did what I was supposed to do on the last 2 holes, but I lost. So it is what it is.
You Kirk Cousins did.
I did.
Yeah,
I really did.
Kirk did.
And congratulations to Chuck. He won, and there it is. But hey, you know what? You know who didn't lose? The Packers didn't lose on Sunday night. They definitely aren't losers, but the Vikings did last night. But we're here, guys. Welcome. How you guys doing? It feels good to, always be able to leave the stadium and still hear that those Bears still suck chants. That's always a good, let's just keep, everything in the right lane, basically. And the lanes didn't change there. How about you guys? How are you guys feeling?
Great. I feel good. First of all, good to see all 3 of us here. It's nice to have the tripod of dudes in this this show.
Really weird.
I know. Cut it. All right.
Got it. Yeah.
But hey, no, other than that awkward comment, things are great, man. Victory Tuesday after a nice victory Monday. So always good when you beat the Bears, and then you can put a ball on that weekend when the Vikings lose on national television. So
Yes,
all
sir.
good in the hood.
Couple things. One, the NFL continues to be wild, and in 2 weeks, but like I've always said, it doesn't get one in the first 2 weeks. So pump your brakes on a lot of that shit, everybody. Don't get too excited. So a few teams who I think have clearly kind of risen to the top, a few teams that I thought were going to kind of get to the top, and they're showing some of that. But I thought it was really weird too. So Sunday comes, right? I'm hanging out. The game starts. Looking for my 2 best buds to start a text chat with me. Neither of them fucking text both at the game. And I'm like sitting there all day like, dude, what's going on? Like neither of my guys are texting me.
Usually Matt's the one that texts in the morning, game day, boys, and he didn't even do that. So
yeah, for those of you who don't know, we have a chat that we talk through the game all the time, and no one was saying anything. So I got to a point where I was like, dude, I'm not gonna say anything either. I'm gonna just pretend like I'm at the game because but it was good. I mean, I couldn't be there. I had a thing going on that I got home late on Sunday, which wasn't gonna work. But you guys were there. How was the vibe? How was the atmosphere?
Honestly, it was electric. The crowd was loud. There's a ton of people there early. I mean, I tailgated in a new spot. It was, shoulder to shoulder walking over there through the kind of the stadium district. So, but in the stadium, man, the crowd was loud. They were juiced up, defense, man, people were up and cheering. It got real loud on some of those like third down stops. I know, Sanjay, you were in the south end zone where I am, and you got that big, the big new section behind you, man. And when that crowd gets going, like it's definitely loud in there. So I know LaFleur called that out in the post game, kind of thanking the fans for their energy and their presence. So I don't know, Sanjay, did you have the similar experience? I thought it was a great crowd.
it was a little different experience for me too. I went to Kroll's to start. I've never like, because usually I'm like, okay, I eat at the Matthews tailgate, or I go get food inside. But the people I was with, they're like, oh, let's just go to Kroll's, and I got in there pretty quick, and we actually sat down and ate. And it was actually pretty quick, which is kind of crazy. But that's a fun scene in there. They had good music outside. So,
did you have any Bear fans around you?
No Bear fans. There was. Okay, actually, sorry. There was one family of 8 that was sitting down, really in a small little like cubicle thing. You know, the little circle tables that they have, and it looked really awkward because they didn't fit in that one table.
Yeah, it's tough.
But the vibe was pretty awesome. I was sitting next to a lot of Bear fans. I was just a little north of you in your section, and there was a lot of fans that were Bears, and it was actually funny because I told my brother-in-law, I'm like, you know, it's actually kind of nice that they're not wearing their orange jerseys because I feel like there was a lot of Bears fans for this game, just kind of walking through the atrium, and walking through the comp or whatever they call the, you know what I'm trying to say. You know, you could see, concourse. Thank you. So I was impressed by their showing, but you know, it's obviously a rivalry game. You're going to see them come up. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, early in the game, when the Bears, you know, that first drive when they went down the field and scored a touchdown, they were loud. Like there was I made a comment to my wife who was sat with. I'm like, I can't believe how many Bear fans are here, and they were talking a lot of shit. And I was thinking
quite
in my head,
the opposite up by me. They were like, we don't know why we're winning. We're probably not going to be winning that long. Or
not by me. They were like, oh, they don't want any part of this. You guys are weak and we're tough and we're playing physical, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how many times have you guys had this scenario play out in front of your eyes and it always ends poorly for you? And lo and behold, it did again. So they were quiet the rest of the game.
Some people were like, oh, it's only 24-7 at half. We're okay. This is much better than a 35-0 half. And I'm like, gosh, this is where you guys are. Is this where you are at in this time of life in your Bear fandom? But vibes were awesome. They obviously announced I'm always curious to see who they announce to start the game, especially start the season. And it was offense, so it was 12. And that stadium, I still swear, I've been there for Favre. I do think Favre was a little bit louder towards the end of his career, but that Rodgers cheer is just absolutely like deafening, and it's pretty awesome. But anyway,
Hey, it goes to show though, like as much as you know, everyone wants to bullshit on him all off season. He's a hippie and he's this and he's that. He's still our leader, man. He's still the guy that we know how good he is. And I love that, and I love that we've never wavered as fans on that. There are a few, like there's a couple guys here and there, but like as a whole, like we understand the situation. And
I want to throw two things at you guys. Well, one thing, and you guys can give me your kind of thoughts on it, and we'll talk about some of the other games too that kind of happened this weekend. But I asked Matt, I felt like, or maybe I asked someone else, but you look at all the players that have come and gone through Green Bay. You've seen some of the coaches that have come and gone through Green Bay. You've seen like Philbin. You've seen Ben McAdoo. Now you see Nathaniel Hackett. Now you see Big Mike. And then you see some of the players like Greg Jennings and James Jones and Jordy Nelson and whoever has left this field and this stadium to a different location. And you see how dog crap they are, right? Or not dog crap, but pretty close to dog crap. Or they just didn't have the same success. Obviously, they may have had like a decent, career afterwards, but just not the same thing. And then I stopped to think and look, especially with coaches. And I was like, is the recipe really the players that left or the coaches that left? Or is there one constant? And that happens to be number 12. And I started to think about it. And there was like an appreciation thing that I thought about where I'm like, you know what? As much as I hate the fact that this guy takes about half of our cap space, it is pretty obvious what this guy means to this actual team and what he does for anybody that leaves this organization or even comes into, because they're either they drop off or they absolutely rise in their production if they're here with him. And I started to just kind of feel like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to complain about Rodgers getting his. I'm not going to kind of complain about, okay, does he not check down here? Does he not look at all these receivers here? Yes, I would like him to, but in the end, this MFer is so ridiculously good. And when he leaves, and we always talk about this when he leaves, and how much we're going to be grateful, just like we were for Favre and blah, 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 blah. But I just don't know if I'm sure you guys wake up sometimes just thinking about that, but that was just something I wanted to kind of throw out there. And I just realized that some of these guys are just guys. They're Jags when they leave. Honestly, like these coaches, they're nothing without Rob. They're really nothing. And that makes me think about, that's why these next couple of years, especially when Rodgers is gone, if LaFleur is still our coach, we will really see if he's truly that great too, because he also falls into that. He brought in a new system, which is really working, but he also has one of the greatest of all times doing it. So we will see if he actually can continue that with whatever quarterback it is, if it's Jordan Love or not. But I just want to get your guys' thought on that quick before we move on.
I mean, I think when it comes to Rodgers, man, like he just like, so I'll address this because anything that I say at the end of the year when we lose does not count, Gabbert. All right. Like it's just
a long season.
Long season, high emotions, very upset, very sad, very
emotions do get the best of all three of us.
Absolutely. And it's weird. It's a long season. Like we
just publicly put it on tape for everybody.
Right? I'm not playing, but I sure do feel worn out. Right. I think on a yearly basis, the last 4 years, I felt like Favre and like being like, I don't know if I should retire or not. I feel like I should maybe stop doing the pod because I'm so depressed sometimes. That being said, when you take a step back and you get out of your microscope and you just look at things for what they are, and you see the way the organizations ran and the way that Rodgers always seems to kind of hold himself and handle himself. It's really like it's top notch, man. It's top notch all the time. He's so calculated with what he says. I will die on a cross saying this, that what he's done with the McAfee show is absolutely heightened who he is. And I think what we all needed to see from him, and that's a joking side, a fun side, a goofy side, a little bit of an extra side. But I mean, when it comes down to it, like outside of like the thought process of him not talking to his family, which we'll never really quite know what the situation there is, he's done it really well. He's done it flawless. He's had no blemishes. And we can't say that about the other guy that we happen to love, the guy that we all extremely love. And Matt, me and Matt specifically, I know we talked about it, just have like a man crush on the guy because he brought us back to football. He brought us into football. And that's Brett Favre. But here we go again. Another issue.
Always something going on with him. Yeah.
You know, and that's like, right. I'm not going to judge who he is. I can't judge who he is. I don't know everything that he does. I mean, I know the things that have been publicized, and I've never stood by Favre and said, great individual, great human being, great man, great husband. Right. Never said it. He's a hell of a football player, and he shows a lot of grit on the football field.
It's tunnel vision with those guys.
What he does on the outside is different. But in the same breath, we shouldn't be so naive to those situations with Favre and also with Rodgers. Like, take in account the fact that Rodgers has been so good. Taken not on the field, off the field. He works with a lot of organizations. He's never had infidelity, no drug issues, no drinking issues. You can say what you want about ayahuasca. That's not really even a hardcore drug. He's mentioned that today. But he's just always like, I mean, he's had some failed relationships. Hey, so have I. So have you. Like, but he could have easily had a million more other things that he's never done it. He's played at a high level. He's always respected the organization. And the thing that I will stop with is that he loves the Packers. He loves the Pack. Not once in his brain has he ever thought, I'll go to Minnesota to spite him. Not once in his brain has he ever thought, I'll go to Chicago to spite him. He has always wanted to come back. And whether or not you want to bitch or not about taking pay cuts, let's be real. This is America. This is the real world. None of us are taking pay cuts. Are you taking a pay cut? No, I'm not taking a pay cut. And he doesn't really have to take a pay cut. I don't care what anyone says. The Tom Brady effect is such bullshit. And we always hang our hat on, well, Tom Brady did it. And it's like, well, Tom Brady also, does a lot of other stupid stuff. That being said, I think that he's always kind of put this organization ahead of his feelings and maybe sometimes his own thoughts. And he's kept it locale and he's kept it cool. And he's kept it to the point where he hasn't lambasted the organization when he's had a lot of opportunities to do it. He kept himself distance and stuff like that. And I just respect that for him. So I agree. I think he's a special dude and he's handled it in the most classy way when it comes to the Packers, and I respect the shit out of that.
Matt, I have nothing to add to this. You guys are all right. We can get to the game here. The only thing I want to add is you're right, Fred, about him loving the Packers. He's a true historian of the game, and he's playing for maybe arguably the most historic team in the game. I do legitimately fear that when he retires, like there's the last guy on the team who gives a shit about the lineage of the players, the Bears Packers rivalry. They ask these guys, do you care about the rivalry? Blah blah. Oh yeah, whatever. It's a great game. I know it's a good, but I don't think they actually give a shit. I think Rodgers does. I think he likes playing in that game. He likes being a part of that story. And I'm afraid that when he goes, there's really nobody else that's like ingrained in it. Even like the coaching staff is all about blazing the new trails and having their own history. So, we there will come a day where we long for, complaining about Aaron Rodgers' massive contract and wishing he would take a pay cut. Like, well, that day will come.
That's
Absolutely.
a great point, though, man. The fact that he's such a historian about it is such a great point because he is. I love when he talks about the old teams, the old players. I mean, he's mentioned the Packers.
He knows it. He loves it.
Times. He's brought up my grandpa before. Like that's so impressive, and I think it just gives people a new appreciation in a world where we see people with very little attention spans, and you see players have no loyalty to their teams. I don't care if they act like they do; they don't. And I feel like it's a lost art, and he's part of it.
It's not like you're gonna see like Lamar Jackson rattle off all the greats of Baltimore. I just don't see it. Like, yeah, maybe you'll say Ray Lewis or Ed Reed, like the guys you probably should say, but it does. There is that little of appreciation that you not only took the time to become one of the greatest players in this NFL, but also took the time to really truly understand what it means to be a Green Bay Packer, what it means to live in the state of Wisconsin, and really truly know what our history is and the path that we got here. So all good stuff there. Let's we'll jump into the game first, and then we'll kind of wrap up with some of the stuff that happened over the weekend on other games. But I want to kind of start up by saying or asking at least. So Matt, when you're watching the game, and obviously we knew that the opponent would probably be, obviously they're coming off a high. They just came off this awesome win against a worthy opponent in shitty weather at home. So it's like, they're feeling themselves. They really feel like, okay, maybe we're stepping in the right direction. We got new leadership. We have new coaching. We have a couple new faces. Maybe we can get something going, new systems. But that first drive, you're just like, oh shit, maybe something is really happening. And then you're like, okay, let's buckle up because maybe this is going to be one of those long seasons where we just have to keep up, some way, shape, or form. But then obviously reality set in, and the defense finally really woke up to a level where we thought, okay, that hype that we thought about or that we kept hearing about in training camp and the preseason was finally there. Finally getting after the quarterback. You've seen Bane Gary getting after people. You've seen Kenny and Preston and all these guys. And, you finally see okay, what could this be like where we get better field position or we get 3 and outs on their own half? Matt, do you think this was more about the defense coming out and making their statement? Or did you think it was really just the offense trying to just still figure it out? I mean, it could be both, but obviously I want to say which one. I'm asking you, which one was it more about? Or was it the offense, trying to figure it out against a really, really young defense? I mean, I couldn't even name one player on their defense right now that, I mean, other than probably Quinn, they're all pretty young. So what are your thoughts there, Matt?
It's you said you could easily pick one or the other. I'm going to go with the defense just because of all of the offseason hype and kind of the consensus of, well, that unit needs to sort of lead the team here, maybe in the first quarter of the season. And there you go again. It's like first drive, the defense is out there and they just get steamrolled. And I put this out there because generally I don't understand this. Why is it that the other team's first 15 plays are all kryptonite? Like it's just a guaranteed gallop down the field that's ending in 7 or 3. I know there's times where it doesn't, but it feels like more often than not, they just give up points immediately and they almost have to get hit in the face to kind of understand what the other team's going to be up to.
It's like, wait.
Like they want to get a gauge of what's going to happen and then sort of kind of go from there. And when they came out in that second series, you could feel the energy shift on the defense. And it was either on that first Preston Smith sack or it was on that where Rasul Douglas came up and stuffed somebody. And all of a sudden, you could see them come alive. Guys all of a sudden were shouting, pushing each other. You could just feel the energy amp up. And then from there on honestly, until that long drive where you got the fourth or the goal line stand. That defense was hyped up, flying around, smacking people, getting pressure. You know, I remember I tweeted, I said I looked up in the third quarter at some point and the Bears had 90 yards, like total yards, not passing or total yards. I mean, I understand it's not, it's not the best offense in the plant they're going against here, but it's like you still needed to see them come out with that kind of intensity and execution, and to finally see it and to do it, frankly, against a Bears team that were juiced up to come in here and knock us off, coming off a big win over an opponent that we can barely beat. I know they beat them in a monsoon, but that gave them a ton of confidence coming in here, and they come and get that opening touchdown, and it felt like they were like, nah, we're shutting it right now. And then from there on out, that game was lights out. It felt like a 42-10 kind of game to me. I think the offense left at least 10 to some points on the board, but yeah, I think the defense really impressed me. I got to work on the run game a little bit. I think that's the one spot you could probably point to, but I don't know how much they were trying to zone in on that, trying to prevent, them from coming back with a big play or something. So interested to see what you guys say about that.
I honestly, I think the defense is, I mean, I hope it's not all year, but I feel like it's probably going to just be this thing where they're going to be a little slow out of the gate. Right. I mean, unless like they're always going to either need that punch in the mouth, or they're going to need a play to kind of like boost them up and get going. And that's okay. I don't think it's a huge issue. But I have that feeling with this team and this defense. And I think it's the same across the board. Again, week 2, right? I think it's going to take some time to get everybody in like their full playing mode. And that's okay. I don't want to peak on week 2. I'm going to seriously not stop saying that the rest of the year. But I think when it mattered and when things started getting there, like they showed up. Everyone played really well. I thought Stokes looks really good. I thought Rasul Douglas had a fantastic game. They all made plays. They were all running around. They looked really good.
And you had something kind of at every level, right? Like you had Rashawn and Preston Smith getting pressure on the quarterback and getting some sacks. You had some tackle for losses up the interior. You had Quay Walker running down, running down Justin Fields from behind and preventing that touchdown late in the game. I mean, you haven't seen athleticism at linebacker like that with the Packers in a long time. And then the secondary, Stokes outruns Mooney on that deep shot, and he prevents that from getting,
I thought he was throwing it to Stokes. I was like,
he ran it down. And then the other one is you get Jair baiting that pass that was going to go to EQ. So it's like you got a little bit of everything you were kind of hoping to see in week 1. So it was a good get right game for them.
But I also fear the opponent, right? Like, are we actually that impressed when we're beating a team like Justin Fields, an offensive line that's shitty, their best receivers EQ? Like, that's my biggest thing. I look at that team and I say, what is their best position offensively? It's David Montgomery, and he did pretty well. So
he did.
That's something that, like, I got to see that kind of a performance against a better opponent. Like, that's just,
and that's why this game coming up is the litmus test.
It's gonna be a litmus test, but I also don't know if I'm gonna hang my hat on it, because again, I'm gonna go back to it being week 3. A lot of teams aren't even getting into their like this'll. I think after usually like 3 or 4, you're starting to get into playing speed. You're starting to get your body right. You're feeling this is the routine I'm back into. And I think that's a big deal. But they played good. They had turnovers, they made plays, but it was against a shitty offense. So I'm not going to
some point
get
though,
too excited about it.
But like, if you look at our offense, you look at our team, and then you look at the Bills, right? So do they have a superstar receiver? For sure. But what do they have more than we don't have, right? Like, we have a superstar quarterback. We have a pretty awesome offensive line. Our defense is supposed to be this hyped up.
Our run game is way better than their run game.
Our run game is way better than theirs. We have a tight end. They have a tight end. So, but yet here they are dropping 40 on teams, and even, your Super Bowl defending champs. Obviously they were kind of like us, where they're starting to get their kind of season going because they're maybe not warmed up yet. But you see the reverse side to it, because like you said, you're wondering, is next week even a litmus test? Because if it's still that week 3 or 4 to get things rolling, but like I always question, but like, why are other teams ready?
That's just it. I don't know why the Packers need this big runway. It's like the Chiefs come out and they're dicing people up. The Dolphins are scoring 45 points. Look at the Lions. They're scoring almost 40 points a game. So it's like the
same roster as like the last 3 years. Maybe add, your rookies and obviously, you lose
I mean,
Devontae.
we've
That's a
lost
huge thing.
arguably the best receiver in the game.
Right, yeah, but at the same time, but like, that defense, what was wrong with the defense against Minnesota? That was the same defense. They got everybody back. I mean, yeah, maybe Jair hasn't played with,
It was a poor
Rasul
game
and
plan.
right.
I think they're like they're a product of slow starts and shitty endings. And I
But is
think
that
that's
coaching?
all. I
Is
don't
this
know who it
like
is, but I definitely
we
think it's a
keep
freaking
hearing
problem.
I always keep hearing Matt LaFleur saying the energy's not great. It wasn't like I absolutely hate that. Like that is the
Yeah, me
worst
too.
excuse.
It's
I'd rather
it
just
doesn't
say
make
you
any
guys
sense.
suck and like we just didn't we didn't practice well. We didn't, we weren't prepared. We were, like almost like you were like procrastinating till the end and hoping that you'd get a good grade on the test. Like I'd rather you say that than say we didn't have enough hype or we weren't, there was not enough energy. You're getting paid millions of dollars. I'm pretty sure I'd wake up with a boner of energy saying I'm going to be playing NFL football tonight instead of saying, oh man, I just didn't really feel like it. I didn't really feel like we were going to have the energy. Like that's absolutely stupid. I really hate that. And it's really embarrassing too.
It's super lazy and there's absolutely no excuse for it. You're right. I mean, what was it a couple years ago when was it Preston or Zadarius said that they didn't have the juice or whatever? And we talked about that
Against the
million times.
Niners.
In NFC Championship, bro. If you
Right,
have
exactly.
juice in the
Like,
NFC
what?
Championship, like I can understand if your juice is off week 4 against the Lions, but I would think that you going into the playoffs, like you would be more hyped than ever. And I think that do you chalk that up to coaching? Do you chalk it up to youth? Do you chalk it up to bad practicing late?
But
Like
those guys were
chalk it up
vets,
to?
right? Those guys have been there for like 5 years. They were already in the league. They got through their rookie contracts. Preston and Zadarius aren't youth. Those guys are vets. So I don't know, what happened.
But I'm gonna go to what Iowa Joe's saying, playing preseason, getting off these slow starts. Like, do we need to be absolutely dominant week 1? We've shown in the past couple years we lost week 1.
You're right.
We
Yeah.
dominated for 8 straight games. I mean, maybe not dominate, but we play really well. We win 8 straight games, and it's never enough. It doesn't matter,
But like
because
if it
we
was
go
against
into the playoffs, we lose.
But
But
that's
if it's
why they
against
should.
the
That's
Jets
why,
week 1, sure. Like maybe you don't need to practice in the preseason, but I feel like this division, not that we're caring about division wins, but like because the Vikings have, a pretty damn good roster, at least offensively, and they probably will be in the mix for, a wild card or maybe even division, who knows. And that you lay that big of an egg in the whole grand scheme of things, like you looked completely off. Maybe you do play in that 4th preseason game. Or maybe you amp up your
if you line up Minnesota week 8, right? Is the outcome the same? Absolutely not.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. Is like if you really don't care about
if
like
you lose that first game, like
I know,
Here's the
but
thing.
maybe it will matter like in week 15. How do you know?
Clearly they need to change the formula up. If I would say that if they could hit the ground running and they come out and they don't have to spend the first month of the season trying to fine tune and dial in what they're trying to do, and then by the time they get to week 17, they run out of gas. If you hit the ground running, then you can spend the season tweaking shit and adding this and that in and moving
But
this
I agree
around.
to Fred's point. As long as you get to the goal that you are, if you get into the playoffs, you want to get hot in the playoffs instead of being so
well, that's
gassed
it.
Because
Exactly.
you got to pick your poison, right?
We've seen that so many times where teams have dominated the regular season and then make early exits in the playoffs. We've seen where teams squeak into the playoffs. I mean, the Rams were not a dominant team going into the playoffs last year. I mean, they had a lot of early mid-season losses.
There was a crap against us.
There was a point where we thought that they weren't even going to make the playoffs. I think there
were the Bengals last year.
Same thing. So like, that's my point. Like, I'm not saying don't win. I'm not saying we don't like, we shouldn't be winning games or we should like none of that. I want to win games. All I'm saying is I just feel like we put such a precedence on like domination from week 1 to week 10. And it's like, we're seeing teams like, because clearly only I say this clearly because when it does get down to like week 16 through the playoffs, we apparently lose juice. So do we need to do something to save set on or quote unquote?
It all comes down to
those playoffs.
I think
like, that's
my
biggest thing.
problem, honestly, because
like is
your
it like
coaching staff is not getting ready for playoff. I don't know what it is. If it's him,
is it too much? Is it too much friend and not parent kind of thing?
Yes.
Where like it's like we're such buddies, but like when the playoffs come, I need Vince Lombardi walking through that door, ready to whoop some ass. Not guy who's gonna be like, hey, we're gonna dap it up, we're bros. No, dude, go win a game.
I'm not in the locker room, so I can't sit here and say, well, it's cultural stuff, but it feels like they lack like that. You're never gonna just have a Charles Woodson kind of guy, but that kind of player where you just like the fact that he's in the locker room or he's on the field, whether you're on one side of the ball or the other, it just raises people's like abilities or they have more.
Tanyan saying that they don't go back to what they got them there.
But that's what I'm saying.
But that's a coaching guy. Who's the old guy on the roster?
It's got to be Rodgers or Mercedes at this point.
But
they're not those guys. That's the problem.
But they're not exactly. That's my exactly.
Not that guy, pal. Not that guy.
Bakhtiari? I don't know.
Who's that guy that? Yeah, but who's that guy that goes out there and stands in the middle of that locker room against a playoff team and says, listen, I've been playing in this fucking league for 17 years. I've never made it. We're going to go out there. They don't because all their best
it was
players,
but he said he had no energy.
All their best players are like 28 or younger. So most of them don't care. Most of them think they have another 15 years in the NFL. And there's just no.
But who was the guy that got the Bengals there? What veteran got the Bengals there? Because I'll tell you right now, that's a tan.
They just had swag, dude. They just had swag. That's all it was.
They had.
There's many ways to do it.
And guess what? They ain't gonna get there this year.
No,
it doesn't look
tell you that much. But that's a perfect example of like perfect storm, getting hot towards the end of the season. Same with the Rams. I mean, both those teams were not the teams that we all looked at and said, like at week 14. These guys are going to the Super Bowl. We were all looking again at Tampa Bay. We were looking at San Francisco, the Packers. We were like, Rams, and that's just my point. And I mean, we talked about this before the show came on, and I'll throw it out there again just for the listeners to hear. Is there a certain amount of games that coaches look at and potentially say to themselves, we're not going to unleash the playbook. We're going to hold Aaron Jones on a pitch count, run count. Are we going to not do this? Are we going to do that? Because of the anticipation and knowing that they need to save some things for playoffs, including the juice. Like at what point
I think it's
do you not blow your load too early?
To that. I just find it so hard to believe that when you're getting paid this much money to do one thing, play a game and win the game, it's hard for me, like coaches and players, both sides of it, and tell me that we're going to take a little off in the sense of like, we're not going to put our foot on their throat and then not, and be okay if something happened. Yeah, well, right. Exactly.
That's Brady. The case because, so he goes psycho pants, right? We all saw it. Everyone.
Yeah. He goes psycho pants. He's a fucking hero, but Rodgers does it.
He's a competitor, and I agree with that. And Brady bugs the crap out of me a lot of times, but like, there's a reason he has 6 Super Bowls, right? There's 7 Super Bowls, whatever the hell he's got at this point. I mean, that's something like, because I'll guarantee you when they are starting to lose the juice in Tampa or in New England, there is a guy that people respect and look up to who goes into that locker room and fires the shit out of people. And Aaron's not going to do that. Like to your point, I mean, I can't imagine Aaron going into a locker room and just pleading for excellence against the other players. He's just not that kind of guy. And that's not bad. That's not a knock necessarily on him, because I do think his calmness is also one of his best attributes as a quarterback. But I do fear that, like you said, we don't have that guy, and that's a concern. It's going to be
maybe they trade for that guy at the trade deadline. I don't know if that guy exists or not, but hopefully something happens.
Gonna have to come from within, I think.
Let's wrap up this game, and I want to talk about the main important thing that I really wanted to bring up today, and that's this guy right here.
Yes,
number 33. And I had this moment watching him last night, and even honestly last week, and I think we are at a time now, and I know we were talking about this guy's contract last year, and when we re-signed him, and did we need him or did we need Lindsley? But at this very moment, we don't, like you said, we don't have that superstar receiver anymore. I think this has to be the Christian McCaffrey of the NFC North. This guy right here has to have the entire offense run through him. It's not Rodgers. It's not a receiver. It's not a Tunyon. It's not anything else. It's Aaron Jones. I think this is the playmaker, and whatever he can do, whether it's 15 touches, if it's 30 touches, whatever it may be, if it's in the pass game or in the run game, this has to be it. Because in all honesty, what this guy brings as a spark is absolutely unreal, and that should open up the pass game where you don't have the strongest weapons, but hopefully they do get better being wide open, hopefully. And Aaron Rodgers makes the throws accurately. But I want to start that with this conversation with saying I'm ready for Aaron Jones to be Christian McCaffrey.
Well, I'll take it one step further. I think that I think the Packers
okay,
need.
all right, fine.
I think they need to treat him sort of in game plan like he's the new Devontae. I think the
Yeah,
offense has to flow through him. You have to have a minimum amount of touches that he's getting. I love AJ Dillon and what he brings to the team, but he is not a threat to hit a home run every time he touches the ball. And, you know, when I'm watching that game and it's really clear that Aaron Jones is on one and he's feeling it and he's seen it, give him the rock, man. I know you got to get Dillon some tough sledding, but it wasn't his night. You know, he put one on the floor, and when he did that, I'm like, give the rest of the carries ought to go to Jones, who I thought could have rushed for 160, 70, 80 yards and another score or two. He looked phenomenal. And I just think if this offense wants to reach its apex, he has to be the focal point. And whether it's out of the backfield or they're flexing him out and throwing him, you know, screen passes, whatever, find a way to get the ball in his hands, because typically good things are going to happen. And he's shifty enough where he can make anybody miss at any time. So I just think it's going to be of great importance to not only, you know, it's going to be tough because you got to manage
10
his
yards
workload.
a carry. So
yes.
You tell me why he doesn't get the ball more.
You got to flow through him. And I think when he's running like that, or he's as big of a threat as he is, like you said, Sanjay, it's just going to open up the opportunities for the other players. And right now, without a top-notch wide receiver, go to where your money is, and that's right now Aaron Jones. He's the best other player other than Rodgers in this team. You gotta get him the ball.
I do think they really balanced AJ Dillon and him really well last night.
They do, but sometimes it's like sometimes it's stop taking Jones out for Dillon when Dillon's running like that. I mean, when Jones is running like that, you can't. I get the philosophy that they're so different and it's a change of pace, but it's like when he's dusting people, who cares about, you know, big tree trunk legs? It's like, let Jones rip it. And that's, you know, what they mostly did for the most part.
Fred?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to probably be the minority in this one just because it's weird. But here's my thing with the Jones. I mean, the guy's absolutely ridiculous, right? I mean, him against the Bears, that was one of the funnest, most exciting performances I've seen by a Packer in a long time. He's crucial. He's vital. He is the offense at this point. I have my two concerns. One, his size scares me, right? I get super nervous going into a long season where we are giving him the ball 20 to 28 times. Okay. That is my only concern. And that goes back to what we were talking about, pitch count, making sure, because I want him like that when the playoffs come.
Right.
That's
why you have Dillon.
That exactly. And so I think there has to be a good exchange between the two. Because obviously in a perfect world, I think you would just give the ball to Jones like you did against Chicago, against every team going for the rest of the season. But I just don't know if it's feasible given his size and the fact that I don't know if he can take that many hits and things like that. I want him at that point come playoffs, because I think that he will change the game. I think he will win those playoff games if they decide to actually, you know.
And I should have probably started with that.
Plan.
Maybe I should say early half of the season, it's them two, right? It's the pair, it's the coupling. And then, you know, late towards the fourth quarter of the season,
right,
and into the playoffs, that's when you feature him.
And I feel like the misconception is that Dillon should be the guy in the playoffs because it's cold weather and he's a big guy and it's old school football. And it's like, okay, well, I get that. But I would also go to echo what Matt said. I mean, if Jones is running that good, Dillon doesn't need to get in the ball that much. If Dillon is running that good, then Aaron Jones,
you feed the hot hand.
And you just have to be like it's not rocket science. Like any one of us should be able to figure that out. And I would hope the coaching staff doesn't have too much pride or ignorance to not know that. The second thing that I wanted to say about that is his salary cap. And you kind of touched that when you first started. I mean, that's a very interesting thing we're going to have to talk about. And I don't know if we have to talk about it right now, because we'll have that to talk about in the end of the season. but
You're
he's
right.
expected to make like what, over 20 million next year.
That's why you win the goddamn Super Bowl now,
Well,
and then you worry about it afterwards.
It's gonna have to be an extension or something. But
yeah,
I mean, I saw that tweet by Captain Ken or whatever his name was, the contract guru, before, like, a couple days before the game, and I was like, gosh, I'm like, that's terrifying, and I'm like, we almost need to start preparing for a life after Aaron Jones. And then the game started, and I was like, I don't want a life after Aaron Jones. I'm like, sign him, do whatever you gotta do, because I think he's so good. I will say two other things that I want to touch on, that kind of relate a little bit to that running game. One, Yash is playing fantastic. I'm gonna go to the offensive line really quick. Yash is on fire. Yeah, resident offensive lineman. Yash is on fire. I believe he's like, I don't know, in the top 20 or top 10 best graded offensive lineman.
Yeah, he might get benched this week.
Yeah, going into it, which I think is interesting. And then I also want to ask you, per my mom's request, what is your thoughts on David Bakhtiari? Why is he not playing? Is he done? Where is your mindset with the whole Bakhtiari situation? Because it is a very weird situation where we have been hearing Bakhtiari could play next week since, I believe, 2019, it feels like. So where do you guys with that, and what do you guys actually think is the situation there?
If it's the words of my brother-in-law, he'll never play a game for the Green Bay Packers again.
I think
that's not his words. In my words,
yeah,
it's probably going to be like week 8. Honestly, if they were saying that he has no urgency to come back in the first couple weeks, I mean, what's the urge? If you have Yash playing like a goddamn Pro Bowler, I mean,
and Alton,
go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I don't know what's going on with him, but clearly that video posted last week of him limping around and then the Packers kind of downplaying it, like, that's not a good sign if he's limping. I think it's truly week to week. I believe he had some type of complication from surgery. Something happened there, and the knee, it's not a question of his ACL, which I think he said already.
What did you say last night, Matt? What did you say?
What
did you say about that contract last night?
It's terrible right now. He inked it and never played again. It's just sunk. It's a sunk cost. It didn't go anywhere.
Unlucky.
It happens so often. I feel like, geez, Matt, your throat's getting over it.
I know.
I would say, like, I guess the 3 surgeries in like how many months? Like, it's just it feels super concerning. To Iowa Joe's point here, I think that's exactly what they would do. I think it's exactly what Green Bay would do. They would not make it public. They would hold on to the situation for as long as they can before they would like release it, because that would be a PR nightmare, I feel like. That being said,
you've seen Gutekunst just cut a guy, which
absolutely,
I'm not saying that they do that right now, but I'm saying
it's a little bit harder when it's your star left tackle. 2, you just paid the guy a shit ton of money. 3, he's Aaron Rodgers' buddy.
Did you guys see Captain Ken's
I think it's one of those things where they're just going to like, it's going to be a game until, like, we're talking playoffs. Like, I would, if you're a fan, I would 100% have absolutely zero expectation that Bakhtiari plays in the regular season.
That's so much money.
Here's the thing.
He might try to make like some miraculous playoff thing again, like he did last year, but I don't know.
Here's the thing about that. If he doesn't play in the regular season, I don't want him playing in the postseason. You're not going to come back and not play for 2 years and then lace him up in the playoffs. Right. If you're not back by midseason, shut him down and see you next year, or maybe never again. I don't know.
Jets, like, you want to see him against the Giants in London. I don't want to see his ass against Tampa Bay's defense.
I agree.
Front. No way.
But out. I feel like that's the only real scenario would be like going into the playoffs, like a 16-17 week game. I guess the hardest question is like, well, what do you do? What do you do?
You have Caleb Jones. You already did what you're supposed to do. You called up a guy. You have Yash playing awesome.
But do you try to trade him? Do you just release him?
Did you see Ken's tweet?
Do you keep him on the roster just to like?
What years is Cap hit the lowest and try to figure out a way to get out of it?
It's in the offseason, I think. It's already in the offseason where like if
I think
they
it's pre-June 1st.
yeah,
isn't it, right?
they can cut him for nothing. So
Wow,
I
it's
mean,
not
not that I
nothing.
want to do that. I mean,
It's not
my
nothing, but
hope is that he comes back and is healthy and can regain most of, or if all, not all of his form. You just got to see it. It's 20 months. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's like, I'm just not going to hold my breath anymore. I'm not riding this wave of, is he going to play or not? I'm pretty much going into every game considering
yeah,
he's
I've
not
already
playing.
come
When
to
he's
terms that he's not
suited
playing.
up on Sunday, I'll get excited about it. Until
Right.
then, it's nothing.
Until he makes a full week of practice without limps, without
Yeah.
gimps, without any, you know.
yeah. Speaking of limps and gimps, one other guy I want to touch on.
Yeah. Wait, speaking of,
Yeah,
I'm
Lazard.
curious. Oh, okay.
I heard.
Yeah.
So I had a couple
He
buddies
limped
who went to
too.
the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a couple buddies that went to the game, and one of them was sitting pretty close to the bench, and he said that he heard when Lazard came out after his ankle that he did like a classic, like big time swear word F word. What are you doing?
Don't worry, I'm on the phone. Go
He's
ahead.
Goody
keep going.
calling somebody.
Okay. Oh,
I'm calling someone. Exactly. What else are you supposed
All right,
to do?
I didn't know. So anyway, he heard that Lazard was like, it was like one of those genuine, like he screwed up, like his ankle was
This is
busted.
him.
He
We've
did come
seen
back
this guy
in,
every year.
but at what point do you like
5
same
weeks
thing,
is
though?
usually the minimum for him.
That's what I said.
Talk about
It was
Sanjay,
his stomach
talk
that one
about it.
time. No, I'm
Talk
just
about
saying, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to like hate on a
No,
guy's
please.
body, but
No,
like
listen. We don't call you Spicy Sanjay for no reason. Let's go.
no, I'm just saying like we've seen this guy like this. He's gotten hurt multiple times, and when he is hurt, it's usually for a good duration of time. And it's like, well, not that we feel bad. Obviously, it's not lucky. It's not fun that you get hurt. It's not your fault. But at the same time, there's a reason that guys get the big contracts and they're the big number ones and that they're the superstars of the league because they're available and they're consistent. And that's one thing we haven't seen from Lazard. So I've always said, look, there was a guy, the Bear fan sitting next to me was like, oh, you guys got Lazard. You guys call him your number one. I'm like, no, hang on. Don't get it twisted. He's not our number one. He's just the next guy up. That's all he was.
Yeah.
The guy left, and then we just called him up, and he was the next one on the depth chart. That's what that ended up being. I've done that in Madden. It's like you cut the guy, and then the next guy slides up a little bit. That's what that was. Okay? That's not what Lazard really is. Is he really good? Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think he's got a lot of talent. He's really good at blocking, and he makes a lot of clutch catches here and there. But as like your 2 or 3, not your superstar guy that you were hoping for, and expecting like, some sort of like, not Devontae numbers, but even just any like true number one.
This is why they need to get Watson and Dobbs multiple attempts in these games.
Really,
they need to get reps. They need in-game reps. We need to see what they can do. I mean, Dobbs got that one pass and nearly got that first down on like on 2nd and 28 or something like that. So if Lazard, we know, like you said, Sanjay, we know who he is. He's up and down. When he gets hurt, it tends to be a lingering thing. We're going to need those guys to step up. And I think that, I'm sick and tired of watching all these other rookies. They have no problem getting 5 or 6 attempts and catches and go for 100 yards. Like, why can't we do that?
I've seen him consistently be great for 3 years as a number 3. Okay. Yeah. As a number 2, even like, yeah, he is consistent, but that was just unlike, 2 targets, 3 targets a game, when MVS and Devontae were starting. So like, yeah, of course he's going to look good.
I think we're going to see some decent progression this year from the receivers. I think Romeo is going to continue to progress. I think Watson actually is going to continue to progress. I think you have a guy like Watkins who is playing pretty well, all things considered. And my argument would be this. One, it's going to take a little bit of time, but that might work out really well to our favor. It's literally back-ending everything I've said so far about I'd rather be great in week 10 to 17. If the receivers start getting onto their shit at 10, week 10, like that's going to be great for us, right? That's going to be really great. And then 2, my argument would be we've had arguably the best receiver in the game for the last 5 years and didn't get anywhere with that.
Temper expectations.
So maybe a group like this with a good running game and offense and defense. I mean, maybe that's it. Why can't that just be enough? I mean, when we had the superstar.
It can be.
It didn't matter. It wasn't enough. Yeah, we won a lot of regular season games.
It didn't have to be that way. We could have just drafted a first-round receiver a couple of years ago. We could have drafted even second-round receivers a couple of years back. but we never did. We just thought MVS was the guy. We thought Jamon Moore was the guy. We thought EQ was the guy. So, we
okay.
I never thought any one of those guys were a guy. You'd be bitching about wide receivers for 4 years because of those three.
I don't even think Gutekunst thought those guys.
I know, but
Gutekunst knew Jamon Moore was a piece of crap. He knew EQ was there, but it was minimal damage.
Hey, when you could have maybe got AJ Dillon in the third, you could have taken a receiver in the second. Well, when you could have got Josh Myers in the third, you probably could have.
Would have, should have. You don't know. You don't know that.
Go get your guy. I've always been about that. If you like a guy, go get him. I'm not shitting on those picks.
Gutekunst has literally not done pretty much
I'm not exactly.
Wrong
That's what I'm just playing devil's advocate. And again, if Lazard's all good to go, I'm happy. Like, look, we need as many guys as we can get. I'm just saying, if this guy's out again this week because of whatever happened, like, shit, man. I mean,
I could easily see Sammy Watkins, Lazard, and Dubs and all them winning a Super Bowl and them coming back for the next 40 years, acting like there were some special group of receivers at alumni weekend, like, oh, Alan Lazard's in town, like, okay. Like, you know what I mean, though? Like, it's like those guys that show up and like, you guys really didn't like do anything, but thanks for the Super Bowl. I mean, it was.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm not trying to like be disrespectful. I feel like
you're not. No,
that's
like
I'm not either.
I'm not shitting on Lazard. I'm just shitting on the situation.
Like where we would be like, oh man, remember the Super Bowl that we won in 2022? Like, remember the receiver was
yeah. I mean, that's what it's gonna be like.
What was that guy's name again? Like that's something which I don't know, whatever.
Well, anyway, so it's already 6:50, so we really didn't get anything accomplished.
Oh,
which
believe
is fine.
me.
Well, all right, let's talk about Tampa predictions, and then let's dip set.
Yeah. So Tampa Bay, we go into Tampa. They clearly have a suspended receiver for now. I'm sure some way, shape, or form by Saturday night, he'll be good to go. But
right.
I'm pretty sure their tackle situation's still pretty porous, and they just signed Cole Beasley today, so I don't really know what that means. Not really worried about that. Even if they didn't have Mike Evans, or even if they did, I still feel really confident with our corners on him, on Godwin, and even on Julio if he comes back. Like, that wasn't really ever my worry. It was playoff Lenny, and just the fact that like our guys just have, and that was one thing I wanted to mention about the Bears game was the tackling has been so bad. And
yeah, it's been dog shit this year.
I'm hoping that it's just the whole, all right, let's just get acclimated to the season. It's guys like, Devontae Campbell and Amos and Savage that are missing these tackles, and even Ja. It's like, okay, these guys are really good players. I'm sure they're going to figure it out. So I'm not panicking yet about that, but I really hope that they can, because they use Leonard Fournette a lot in the pass game and in the run game. So that's really going to be my focus, is seeing how they, stop him really. So I'm not really worried about Tom Brady, because if you can get pressure, on these weak tackles that are just like no names, I mean, Bain and Preston should eat. So that's my thought, at least on the defense. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, I think this game is going to be it's going to come down to the offensive line. Can they protect Aaron Rodgers and keep him upright? Because we've seen the pass against the Buccaneers. They got a ton of pressure on him, made him uncomfortable. And that's when we had Devontae. And on the other side is the D-line. You got to get the pressure to Brady. We've all seen it. How do you beat Tom Brady teams? You knock him down. You hit him. You get him off his spot. You make him uncomfortable. And that are things we haven't really done that well when we played against Tom Brady the last couple of years. And I think and we're already fighting having to go to Florida, which is a problem, and they don't play well there. But I just think if we're going to have a shot, those two groups specifically are going to have really strong games. Obviously, add in Gary and Preston Smith rushing the passer. But keeping Aaron Rodgers upright, giving him time to go through his reads, because that Buccaneer defense, man, is difficult, and those linebackers are legitimate. But I think there's an opportunity there, maybe in the secondary to get some success, and then of course keep the running game going and keep that productive. So I don't know, Fred, what do you think? I think that those two units are going to dictate the whole game for the Packers, and I just can't see it going down to anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it doesn't give me good feelings inside my belly when I think about having to go to Florida to play, because we all know how that just works. I don't understand why. It's disgusting. Iowa Joe, it's a stat. Thank you. But I will say, like, I think my saving grace going into the game, or my thought process going into the game, is that our front seven is better than our front seven's ever been against a Brady team.
Agreed.
And I think that's a huge proponent to what we could do. I think with that even that D line, the size has seen some good push. We've never had a guy like Quay Walker, which I think they kind of thrive in that intermediate game. Obviously, with Tom Brady, Quay's a whole new asset there. Stokes and Jair are two dynamic combo that I don't think he's ever had to face both at the same time. So that's another issue. So I think we are more prepared than we've ever been against playing a Brady team in Tampa specifically. But you still have that weird. I know I'm going to go into the game. I'm going to be hyped, and I guarantee you, the first time something happens, I'm going to go, here we fucking go, because that's just going to be my unfortunate, crappy attitude about it. But I also feel like there really isn't a reason we should not win the game. I do feel
they ought to be competitive.
Absolutely a better team. I just think like sometimes it's just like that weird stack of the cards, right? It's playing in Florida, playing against Brady. It could end up being one of those stupid games where we lose late because they have a great drive late in the fourth quarter. And I'd be okay with that, right? Now, let me just preface that as well. I'm not choosing them to win, but if we were to lose to Tampa by a late drive by Brady, a classic Brady fourth quarter drive, we lost 27-20 or something, like I wouldn't hit the panic button. I wouldn't freak out if we were 1-2. That's all. 1-2. That's all I'm going to say.
I wouldn't panic.
That being said, I don't think we're going to lose.
I wouldn't panic either, but it's like this, Sanjay. You want to weigh yourself against the best of the best.
Absolutely.
Well, this is it right here. It's early season tilt.
Yep.
So a loss is fine, but it's how you lose. I'm not predicting a loss or think it's going to happen, but if you're competitive and you just can't get enough in the end, fine. But you can't come out and get blasted, 38-10 or something like that. That's what you don't want to see.
Yeah, I agree. It can't be a bad one. It can't be bad. And really quick to touch, Coach Solom, Bobby Solom. I do think, or Bobby Solom. Oh my gosh, that's his nephew. Bobby Touchdowns. Sorry, shout out Bobby Solom, hell of a football player. Wow, that Bobby Touchdowns. As soon as I said it, I'm like, gosh, that doesn't sound right. Bobby Tanyan. We were talking about before the show. I do think we're going to start to see a small increment of him kind of rising up, but I do think it's going to be mid-season where we start seeing game plans focusing more on getting him open in his schemes. I do see, though, slight progression coming off that injury. He's starting to kind of get there. But to Matt's point that he made earlier, I think they're just utilizing him a lot in the blocking scheme because of the lack of left tackle.
I mean, if this run game can keep going, I mean, anybody's going to get open, hopefully, with play action. So, all right, let's make some predictions. Matty Ice, what do you got?
Predictions.
Man, this game definitely makes me queasy. I'm so tempted.
You never do it.
But I can never do it. I just can't do it because they always have faith in my boys and my team. So I think it's going to be, I do believe it's going to be a close game. I really don't think the Packers are going to show up and lay an egg. I think it's happened before and they know it's not an option. And I think they're out to prove something this week. I just think it's going to come down to the end and I'm going to say 30-28 Packers.
Okay.
I am sorry, Matt. What did you say?
30-28. I think it might be too many points, but I'm going to go with it.
That's very close. Wow. I think it's going to be less points, lower scoring. I think it's going to be, I'm up between 28-21 or 28-20. I'm going to go 28-20. Packers win. They get a late stop, shut down Brady. That fourth quarter comeback does not happen, and the Packer defense prevails.
20 points. Okay.
Dig it.
So I don't think our team is really gonna score 30 points. Probably, maybe once or twice. Like the Jets and Giants, maybe. Sure, I think they could definitely.
That's what I think about your prediction right now.
Hey, I have us losing this game.
Oh, I knew it. You betcha.
It's so ridiculous.
You said it. You said if we lose close, it would be okay. Like that, I don't understand. Like, what you shit on me.
How do you sleep at night? 2 questions. How do you sleep at night? And how do you look your
And how
son
dare
in the
you?
eye in the morning? How do you look Arjun in the eye every morning?
I
when you
don't
eat
see
your
him when I get
cereal
up.
out of shame and disgust.
I leave
I just
too
don't
early.
look at him.
You disgust me.
I leave at like 4:30 in the morning, so I don't see him. But I just
Good. He probably doesn't want to see you. You piece
I
of
have
shit.
us losing 17-14. Really close game. I just don't. I think this, like you just said, you just got done saying for an hour that this offense may not get things going till after week 4. So I just, I'm going based on your facts. Your assumptions, your
Oh, he's trying to
opinions.
blame
right.
Fred for picking against. I see what he's doing here.
Hey, when I get
Classic.
win-loss
You just
record, boys,
can't man
win-loss
up to your
record.
own shit.
know?
You just can't man up to your own shit.
Hey, we'll tally them up at the end. Who's got more wins on our predictions? So
Recall Sanjay.
You're ridiculous.
You're ridiculous.
It's week 3 and you're already picking losses. You're disgusting.
I'm sorry that we're playing a good
You're
team.
just a terrible
right?
person.
We're playing Tom Brady. We're playing the GOAT. All right. Hey,
GOAT?
with that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We always appreciate everybody coming out here for that hour with us. We'll definitely be back, and we'll hopefully be talking about a victory, because you know what? It's really fun when we have Victory Mondays. So, and even though we're on a Tuesday show, but it's nice to wake up knowing that we just won them the day before. With that being said, that's Matt. That's Fred.
You're disgusting.
As always, go
Go Pack, go.
You can't say go Pack, go Sanjay. You're a loser.
Go Bucks,
failed.